Well, hello there, and welcome to the living room of the dollhouse for another reading from The Secret Language of Birthdays by Gary Goldschneider and Hugh Stelfers for January 11th, the day of evaluation. And here at the top of the page is a visual representation of the day of evaluation. Well, we have us an image of, what could it be? All right, boom. Well, it's a scale of sorts, and I couldn't quite tell you what they're measuring. It looks kind of like some kind of framed sand or something like that. I don't know. That being said, is that an adequate representational image of the day of evaluation? Hey, maybe so. A balance of sorts there. In any event, hey, not altogether all too important, the visual representational image there. What is important, though, is it's January 11th, and hence it's somebody's birthday. And so if it's January 11th and it's your birthday, me wishing you a happy birthday is what's important. That's right, so happy birthday. But if this video finds you late, I don't know, days, weeks, months, whatever the case may be, I just want to say I hope you had a happy birthday. But if there's people joining us randomly today, or more ideally, here to celebrate the January 11th birthday, I just want to say hello, welcome, and I hope you enjoy yourself. And before I dive in with the redirect, something I like to do around these here parts, and that's roll some dice. This is the Diecast birthday broadcast, so I'd like to live up to the namesake, but I do so more importantly, without dropping the dice that, for synchronicity's sake. That's right. And I rolled us a 5 and a 2 for a 7. Now, what is synchronicity, you're probably wondering? Well, my friends, a lot of times we get out in the world and we're very singular or narrow of focus, very laser, if you like. We kind of got the blinders on in a lot of cases. So we're not necessarily noticing all the things that are going on around us. Yeah, we might see them, but we're not really internalizing that very much. And I say that because, as I've heard it told, the universe will put things in our path to help us realize our goals or manifest our aspirations. And you know what? If we get the blinders on, it might be kind of hard to see such things. We might pass them right by. So that being said, this is a exercise to take off those blinders and start recognizing the things the universe is putting in our path for us by figuring out a sign that we can't help but notice. That's right. Boom, your daily numbers. A mutually agreed upon sign with you in the universe. Now, you don't have to go with the numbers that I rolled for you. The intention is there with your 5 and 2 for a 7. But it's probably ideal you take your own set of dice, to ascribe directional values to number sets and figure out time limits with which to go in those directions. But once you've figured all that stuff out, your daily numbers, your time values, and directional numbers there, you pick a spot that you maybe would be interested in walking around and seeing things in. I don't know, maybe downtown, the town square, whatever it may be. And once you figured that out and you've kind of put yourself in that position, take those blinders off, all right? So you can start soaking up everything like a sponge. You never know, the day might start to take on a little bit of a theme. Certain things that you might otherwise not take note of might start popping up all around you. You never know. So that being said, you get your first directional value going, you set off, and you're taking as much in as you can. Maybe there doesn't really seem to be anything happening. You're seeing just your everyday normal goings on. You know what? Once you reach into your time value, take a step back, compose yourself, and look around, see what you see. Maybe you just happen to notice that you're looking up at the street signs and you might just be on number 52 Street, I don't know, or 7th Avenue maybe. I would take that as a sign that you're on the right path. But maybe you're not seeing anything else other than that. Just you're on 7th Street. Coincidence, right? Well, maybe not so, or maybe so. But if that's the case, just let them stack up. Let's see how many coincidences we can get to form for us. Because we'll get out here, try to see, taste, touch, feel, smell maybe, just intuit a little bit of magic. It's your birthday. Let's get excited for things. So roll yourself directional value again, time limit. Head off in that direction. Maybe you find yourself, I don't know, you stop in front of this building at the end of that time value and it might just so happen to have a 52 in the address. You know what? I would argue you should go in there, see what you see. Maybe it just so happens to be some kind of plant nursery. That's right. Oh, you just stepped on in there. Now, I know you're probably not in the market for a banana tree or a baby rubber plant, but hey, you know what? See what you see. The person stops in there, asks you what you're up to. You say, how can I help you today? Like, I don't know. I'm not here for anything in particular. I'm just here trying to get synchronicity to work for me. And they're like, what are you talking about? Maybe you show them this video, show them your dice, and they're like, well, what are you doing here? And you say, hey, the address was the same number as my dice there. So I took it on upon myself to come on in. And they go, well, that's pretty interesting. But unfortunately, all we got going on here today is that we got some monkey puzzle trees on special. And you're like, oh, how about that? You know what? The monkey puzzles are never on special. And that's probably because they're too hard to climb. That's right. They go, well, outside of that, hey, you know what might be interesting? Maybe behind the counter, that person, it's their birthday too. So you got monkey puzzles on special. It's their birthday too. And you know what? Maybe nobody else is in the market for a monkey puzzle themselves. So maybe that person closes up shop and joins you on your little synchronicity walk here. And you know what's great about that is outside of the fact that it's somebody else's birthday and you found them, the only person who's on their second leg of the journey. If you get out there and they join you, guess what? The universe is apt to help you manifest more magic and realize more things, because they say more power, more focus on the same thing, apt to manifest more. That's right. So I think you get the idea. Get out there, you make some things happen, follow anomalies. Maybe I didn't go over that, but hey, if you see something that stands out to you in a crowd, maybe you and your friends here, they go, hey, take a note of that guy. He's wearing like a hot pink shirt. Oh, hey, you know what? Let's roll a dice, see how long to follow them for. So pick out anomalies too. Maybe the day starts to take on a theme. Maybe you start seeing monkey puzzle trees all over the place. And you got your baby monkey puzzle in your backpack because that was on special. And hey, you can't pass up a baby monkey puzzle, can you? That's right, any event. I think you get the idea. Maybe a little harebrained with my example there. But hey, it's all fun and free and loose. One shot, one take. See what we can get. Let's get on with the birthday read. Your month is January, your day the 11th, your sign is 20 to 22 degrees Capricorn of the Capricorn III period specifically, and your quality and elements is Cardinal Earth. All right, January 11th, the day of evaluation. It is the forte of the strong-willed, highly capable individuals born on January 11 to be able to accurately size up and evaluate the people and life experiences they meet. January 11 people often pride themselves on their unbiased approach to life, but to the extent that their perceptions are dominated by their belief system, their objectivity can be clouded. And those born on this day who can put their personal beliefs aside more often can more evenly assess what they see around them. The difficulty for many January 11 people is that they are highly moral and, to that extent, rigid in their condemnation of what does not fit their beliefs. And this can be hard on their children in particular, since condemnation not only imbues children with feelings of guilt, but also eats away at their self-confidence and ability to function as independent individuals. January 11th, parents must therefore avoid placing themselves in high in the judgment seat, as such a stance ultimately foments antagonisms and rebellion. All right, got a little bit jumbled up there. All right, let's get back into it here. When it comes to appraising texts, objects, methods, finances, and systems of all sorts with which they are familiar, January 11th people really shine. And in their area of expertise, they are often sought out by others to render expert opinions, perhaps on the value of objects and investments, or the quality and authenticity of writings, crafts, and arts. They display excellent analytical abilities and are skilled judges in this respect, calmly separating the wheat from the chaff. And those born on this day can usually spot something phony in an instant and are thus an extremely valuable asset when the task at hand is weeding out waste or corruption. And indeed, January 11 people are very hard to fool when it comes to most matters. And unfortunately, those born on this day can be truly hard-headed and stubborn. They know what they know, and that is it. Very little is left open for discussion when their mind is made up. and they may, however, speak with some degree of confidence and a sense of infallibility when discussing matters they know little or nothing about. And this can drive others crazy, but they themselves often just calmly repeat themselves and stand firm. Unless proven wrong, what they say may be taken for the gospel. And the crying need of January 11th people is to develop greater flexibility, because they already show marked human qualities of generosity, kindness, and devotion. It is really only their judgmental attitudes which keep them from being even more open and accepting. Prejudices and rigidly held opinions can only stand in the way of those born on this day exercising their strength. That is, apprehending life experiences with insight and clarity of vision. And although great persistence and patience will be needed, January 11th people may be able to develop a more open mind through applying their own evaluative talents and analytic abilities to themselves. Well, all right. How about that for a birthday breakdown? It seemed like they kind of, picked up a contradictive viewpoint there with a little bit of this. But hey, you know what? I like to provide a little bit of a comprehensive commentary here based on not only what we've read, but things I've read in the past to try to bring some connections to bear. So maybe we'll get to understand a little bit of why and what I found of interest about as much. So let's dive in, shall we? January 11th, the day of evaluation. All right, you're strong-willed and highly capable, and the reading claims that you are able to accurately size up and evaluate people and life experiences, which is a seeming through line this period to no uncertain extent. The difference being here, however, is that you may let the things that you believe, or your biases and prejudices, if you like, affect your objectivity. Which on its face, it sounds like a bit of a knock, I would say. But at least you're able to buck a trend, because this isn't common for most Capricorns, that, at least as far as I've interpreted it. That said, your Capricorn traits, they don't run very far off, however, as it sounds as though instead of a strict adherence to a more purist idea of objectivity, to say using it for everything, all right, it may be more aptly applied towards what doesn't conform to your belief system, which the reading hammers down on being particularly difficult on your children for a variety of reasons. That I wouldn't have really considered if this stuff hadn't been brought up directly. But they seem to make a lot of sense there, because they're kind of taking the child's perspective on how you might come off to them. So don't go too hard on them unless you want a chance of full revolt, as they warned. But having said that, the reading claims that when it comes to your area of expertise, you cannot be matched on your analytical ability. And I would say that perhaps owes to the bias that separates you from other Capricorns, who may not be able to provide an opinion from a more colored vantage point there. Sometimes the others aren't often, they're accused of doing just that, and they're advised to start taking more of a kind of a standpoint, opening themselves up to more emotions. But that opinion may be hard received, is stubborn and committed to it as you may. That's what am I trying to say here? You bring an opinion to it, whereas a lot of the other ones, they don't necessarily. They're being a little too objective, but for you, they're saying you got a little bit of an emotional aspect to it, I would think. And so from that, it colors that perspective. And this is something they advise other Capricorns to venture out into and kind of accept in their life. Here for you, they kind of claim the opposite. But I would argue this gives you a little bit something extra that they don't have. And so they advise you to open up, but more so in a flexibility arena. And not surprisingly, the reading then kind of dashes my thinking about as much, that the bias might provide you with a little bit of a strength. That is insofar as clarity is concerned. So while I am an ardent advocate of objectivity in one person's life. I'm not averse to the idea that emotions have a place in the world, right? And I still think my idea about how it would apply or it would benefit you to your assessments in certain regards, I think it still may have a little bit of credence in that respect, though they kind of dashed that idea as I was doing the reading and putting the notes together. So that's kind of funny that that happened. I will say that turning your talents on improving yourself is something that I can agree with completely. It's hard to probably do, though, is the thing. So this is a rather narrow focus birthday breakdown today, as in they didn't really dive into like your life as a parent. They did do that a little bit, so they helped round it out a little bit more than they do these typical Capricorn entries. But outside of that, they didn't really examine your childhood or what it was like to be a sibling, what you are as kind of a what do you call it, a partner or a husband or a wife. I think they kind of talked about how you're going to help out other people, and it's kind of interesting is they kind of breezed over a lot of that stuff. So like I said, it was a rather narrow focus, all things being considered. I've seen some of these entries that are very well rounded in that respect. But having said that, within that narrow focus, I thought they really expanded in scope. So, and they've been doing that pretty religiously here for the Capricorn period. But having said that, let's dive in with your numbers and your planets. Those born on the 11th of the month are ruled by the number 2, as 1 plus 1 equals 2, and by the moon. Those ruled by the number 2 often make good co-workers and partners, rather than leaders. And in the case of January 11th people who may be loners due to the added influence of Saturn, the ruler of Capricorn, moon influences may manifest an insight into how society operates and how to define their own social roles. Those born on this day often make excellent, faithful mates. And not uncommonly, the number 11 indicates an interest in twins, coincidences, symmetry, and mirror image or other doubles. All right, now what I have to say about your numbers and your planets here. All right, let's dive back into the notes, see what we see, make some connections here. The number 2 in the moon for a good coworker and partner rather than leader dynamic. And based on the breakdown, I couldn't come down one way or the other on how that may or may not apply. And I don't oftentimes, as there's some kind of hint to help me kind of figure out whether or not that applies or whether I agree with it in any extent. Because by and large, a lot of these are copy-paste jobs as they carry over the main little nugget of information. And this one for moon days, like it's usually this partners and co-workers dynamic over leaders. And I have a rather hard time trying to justify that because on a lot of cases, these breakdowns make the case that someone does have some leadership qualities, even if it's not stated directly. But having said that, the reading's assessment is right about where I would land. You're a person of your own strength and power, a loner, they said, in that regard, as a leader of sorts in my mind, all right, even if you're just blazing your own path, hey, you're leading the charge in that case, right? Where they get the information from all of this or to lend to that idea, I have no idea myself. And the same can be said for how Saturn, when added to this moon, helps add insight into how society kind of operates and how you're defined with a role within that particular aspect or your function therein. Usually there's some kind of a conflict or a bolstering of power that Saturn imparts on the particular planet rulership of the day. And so here it's kind of like, well, which one is it doing? You know, because you're able to find out your role within society. I don't know if that's a strength or I don't know. It must be a strength. Like I said, it's kind of hard to discern what it was they're getting at here. But that having been said, Saturn oftentimes imparts a lot of conflict or frustration in a person's day on account of otherwise conservative natures therein. And the Sagittarius Capricorn cusp, this was almost replete for every single day in that period. But here Capricorn's been bucking that trend a little bit. And I've seen some of your day kind of presented a little bit of anomalies here and there. So maybe that's the case. Maybe it's all it's all strengths for you there. That having been said, that's your numbers and planets. No, we didn't really say too much about it, but you get a little bit of context how they're looking at it through the astrology terms there. But having said that, that's your numbers and planets. So let's move on to your tarot. All right, your tarot, one of the more eclectic of the New Age metaphysical ideologies, if you like. But hey, it's here in the book. We don't have to take it home with us and start dealing out the cards to predict our future or however they're used. But maybe we can make some more connections on things. Give us a little more clarity on our lives and such. All right, the 11th card of the major arcana is Justice, a serene seated woman holding the scales in one hand and the sword in the other. She reminds us of the order of the universe and that balance and harmony will be maintained in our lives as long as we continue on our path. The positive aspects of this card are integrity, fairness, honesty, and discipline. And the negative aspects are low initiative, impersonality, fear of innovation, and grievances. All right, here. This was a total copy-paste job in this respect for the tarot here. Oftentimes it is, but sometimes they'll personalize it for you. But hey, let's just dive in, see if I can pick up a little bit of the slack. Hopefully be a little more coherent than I have been on some of my other notes here. All right, the tarot, you got Justice, which represents the order of the universe and that balance and harmony will be maintained as long as we continue on our path. All right. So quite the justification for your typical way of operating, I would say. That is with a little bit of a bias, even though you have the capacity to be completely objective. Or it seems like you might pick and choose when to be objective. Or maybe you don't recognize when you're not being objective. Who's to say? But that being said, there's positives of integrity, fairness, honesty, and discipline. But I would argue your idea of fairness, if you're given to prejudices, may be something that you need to spend additional time reflecting upon, at least if you want to go after that purist objectivity there. The likes of which, reflecting, I mean, is also a moon quality that didn't get mentioned here today. It might be with self-reflection or just upon other things. Who's to say? They don't really make a coherent point to describing what that reflectivity is supposed to mean. Maybe it's just the fact the moon reflects light that they go, oh, the people are reflective on whatever may happen to be. So, but that being said, it wasn't mentioned in today's numbers and planets. But I would say it bears strong relevance for you if you're apt to throw bias on things. So you might have to spend a little bit more time if you're wanting to get that purest objectivity. Having said that, beware of your assessments and how they may affect and attract detractors, all right? Which I would argue may then lead to said negatives or help bolster their negative influence on you, all right? Because they mentioned in low initiative, impersonality, fear of innovation, and grievances. It's kind of like, it sounds like a little bit of a depression to me. So if things are coming in on you real hot and heavy, it might just kind of get you to stop being productive ultimately because you're dealing with all this other stuff going on. So yeah, don't let those negatives get you down. Don't get people into a place where they're going to turn into an aggressor, because then that's just going to have negative effects on you. I think that's what I've been trying to say. So a rather lengthy tarot breakdown for me on my side, despite them not having really imparted very much. So hey, hopefully that gave you some stuff to think about or be objective about. Do some reflection on if you like. All right, that's been your tarot. So let's dive in with your health. Okay. Those born on January 11 often devote themselves to the care of others and can wear themselves out doing so. They must learn to relax and take vacations from their work. In addition, they have to let up from time to time and have enough faith to allow things to run by themselves. Certain physical manifestations of their psychological rigidity may manifest, particularly affecting the bones and the skeletal system as they get older. As far as diet is concerned, January 11 people must avoid restrictedness here, as well as be open to new recipes and, in general, new approaches to food and cooking. A highly varied, well-balanced diet is best for them. and they should make an effort to get regular, mild, or moderate physical exercise, particularly walking and swimming, are recommended. All right, this was a very unique health entry today. More unique than usual. Let's get into why here. Devotion to others may wear you out. All right, interesting. While this is a common Capricorn trait, the thing that they're devoted to wearing them out, or so they're not focused on their health when it comes to whatever it is their focus is. Giving yourself energy to something giving your energy over to something other than yourself. That's the theme for Capricorns. It's usually work or the career or a cause that they devote themselves to. And based on the breakdown, that's where I would have landed with this interpretation of yourself here. But they added that as well, but it was kind of an anomaly. They said you devote yourself to family and friends and or the care of others, not family and friends, but the care of others specifically. I would drill down on them thinking that's your cause, even though I'm kind of on the fence as to whether that's true or not. Here nor there. They claim rigidity is is kind of going to affect you about as much because you're not focused on yourself too terribly. But this has been a common theme for the Capricorn IIIs so far. They build up an armor inside and they can be getting rigid from it. So for you, they said mild to moderate exercise and a diet focused on invigorating your approach to cooking. And surprisingly, that's a Capricorn theme as well. They've really focused on people expanding their culinary abilities, and they're focused on the kitchen, so much so they don't talk about how to focus their diet. Or they might even broad stroke it. Just do general good things. What does that mean? But other Capricorn days, they do a focus on removing dairy fats as well as animal fats. And I think that's so that they get cholesterol out of their diet. Because one of the body areas for Capricorns is their veins, and the other one is the skeletal system, rather. So you need to be taking your vitamins and supplements, I would assume, and just being careful in a general sense that way. So taking care of your arteries, veins, and your skeletal system for Capricorns there. And I would say the moderate to mild exercise, particularly walking recommended, just help with all that in general. But here, there wasn't too terribly much of interest mentioned outside of all those things. And a few of those things I mentioned, they didn't even include. So pretty rote health entry in my estimation. But that having been said, that's been your health. Hopefully you got some information to think about there, things you maybe hadn't known about. But let's move on to some advice. All right. Maintain flexibility and be open to change. Don't condemn someone before giving them a chance. Admit your mistakes and be rich in your praise when it is warranted. All right. Now, what I have to say about your advice here. I had to write it in the book, so if I wasn't making things jumbled already, let's see if I can further mix things up for you here. Maintain flexibility and be open to change, they said. All right. It only stands to benefit your relationships, I would reckon, all right? But also presents ideas or subjects you may not have given a chance before if you're open to other and new things. You might see some merit in something you would have otherwise dismissed. And I know it says you're pretty rigid, thinking you know about things you don't necessarily. It's an interesting aspect. You kind of die on the cross with it unless somebody proves you wrong, in which case, things get a little tenuous there if that happens. Also, this stuff might also provide you just a fresh take on things and relevant perspectives to maybe reinvigorate your work or take it to the next tier. So don't be closed down to certain new and innovative things. And objectivity, a lot of times, I would say, can kind of take us away from things. We're just too focused on how things should be. But I'd say being truly objective, you would open yourself up to the reality of things maybe being proven wrong to you. So they said don't condemn folks before giving them a chance. Kind of a book by its cover kind of thing, I would argue. And you probably don't want to be judged in that respect either, right? Without being people getting to know you first. And I don't know, just don't be so stubborn that way if this stuff applies, all right? I would also say it's going to be a vice versa kind of thing too. What else do we have here? So they said, admit your mistakes and be rich in your praise when it is warranted. I couldn't figure whether this was you giving praise to other people or taking it. I don't know. If you're closed down that way, hey, be open to taking a compliment, I would say. But as I got on with the notes, I kind of landed on maybe drilling down more on you giving praise. All right. What do I have to say about that? Hey, humility just goes a really long way. Giving praise over. This is admitting your mistakes. Being humble about, hey, I don't know. All right. Or I messed that one up. People are going to, okay. They're willing to admit when they're wrong. So don't pretend that you're right when you aren't. And it's first of all, it's a bad look. And if you do get found out, your credibility goes out the window along with it. All right, that is if you are caught. So just be judicious with your lying there, if you like. If you do it, and for sure lend out credit when somebody deserves it. Okay, again, it just shows humility, and you attract more bears with honey, right? Or more bees with honey, whatever the saying is. Well, the bees doesn't make sense because they make the honey, right? Any event, that's been your advice, and I'm just disjointed as all sin today. Who's to say why? But hopefully I made some semblance of sense there for you, something coherent. But that having been said, that's your advice. So let's move on to your meditation. That's right, it's your birthday. You get a meditation, something to reflect on, if you like. It is a moon day. All right, your meditation. See, get centered here. Take it down a hair. Having as few preconceptions as possible allows one to breathe fresher air. All right, I like this one for you. I really do. Here we go. Having as few preconceptions as possible allows one to breathe fresher air. All right. That's your meditation. It's your birthday. I'm not going to throw some spin or interpretation on it for you. It's just for you to consider. Otherwise, if I did, hey, it wouldn't really mean much, would it? You couldn't be objective about it if I was throwing my spin on it, because then you heard it. But in any event, hey, your meditation, your birthday. But with the meditation having been relayed, let's move on to your strengths and your weaknesses. That's right. Let's hold up the objective mirror there and see where you got the bulk, if you like, and maybe where you otherwise a little atrophy. That's right. Your strengths and weaknesses. Your strengths, you're trustworthy, you're capable, and you're strong-willed. All right. That's right. Strong will. But your weaknesses, let's hold up the objective mirror, but flip it to the side that blows up your face. Maybe shows off some of the pock marks that carried forward when you was scratching your chicken pox scabs as a child, even though your parents told you not to, but you wouldn't listen, would you? Now you got the scars to show for it. That's right. Your weaknesses. What do we have here? Ooh, you're judgmental and you're rigid. Only two. How about that? Most times it's three. In any event, I would say we knew all this based on the breakdown. Nothing new. There was no news there. But having said that, I like to argue that if we want to take our weaknesses or address them, we can do so with our strengths. And this is just, a hodgepodge of them. There's probably even more, this is to say. But you're trustworthy, capable, strong-willed. Hey, you're going to get rid of that judgmental, rigid aspect if you really apply yourself to it. But having said that, I like to say that sometimes our weaknesses can be strengths as well. So maybe don't get rid of them altogether. It just depends on the situation. I've seen these strengths and weaknesses trade back and forth just between the days. Just the personalities is what's going to change it. But I also like to say that, getting rid of them altogether, hey, our weaknesses are part of what makes us who we are. So we don't want to change ourselves completely, I wouldn't think. But having said that, that's been your strengths and weaknesses. So let's dive in with those born on this day. That's right. Let's see who shares your company. And when we do this, when we dive into who shares your company, something I like to focus on or segue into keeping an eye on or seeing this through a certain prism, is figuring out our passions. Because too often in life, I get out in the world and meet folks, ask them what they do, more importantly if they like it, and they don't. And it's perfectly understandable by my mind. We get out of school, get right into a job and make ends meet, and maybe we stick with that and start climbing the corporate ladder, and then we're kind of trapped in there because, hey, now we're making a good paycheck. And maybe it's easy. It's something we're used to. Roll out of bed, put the blinders on, get right to it, right? But at the root of it, the fatal flaw is maybe it's not something we like to do. Never was, hasn't been, can't be, because it's not one of our passions, all right? Maybe we get fulfillment out of being good at it, but you know what? I'd still say that's not enough, because it's important that we're getting out of bed in the morning doing figurative or literal backflips to get into something we're eager to do and that we get fulfillment from, right? There's only so much time on this world, so we should be doing something that gives, it lends to our purpose or our passion. But a lot of times, you know what? It's hard to figure out your passion, all right? It takes time and energy and effort to figure those things out in a lot of cases. Sometimes just what we like to do. And so I think this is the perfect opportunity to examine just that. What is your passion? That's right. And so maybe we can dive in, see who not only shares your company, but what they did to get in the book. And maybe it'll serve as a little bit of an inspiration to help us rekindle the fires. That's right. Get us thinking about figuring out our passions. All right, but I know it's a big ass tall order, but let's give it a shot. Maybe me just putting the idea in your ear about it's going to help stir up the fires. So here we go. We start off with Alexander Hamilton, the American patriot and Washington's general and aide, and a political and economical theorist, and the first Secretary of the Treasury, helped write the Constitution and was killed in a duel by Aaron Burr at age 46. All right, quite the biography there. They don't usually go that far. William James, the psychologist and founder of functionalism, was a philosopher and a pragmatist. This is interesting here. All right, one of the founding fathers of pragmatism, the American philosophy. For somebody who's a little on the fence about pragmatism with the biases, I like the irony here. I love it. He also wrote The Varieties of Religious Experience. All right. Eva Le Guin, an actress and Broadway director, producer, founder of the American Repertory Theater. We also have F.H. Boland, an Irish leader, UN general, and an assembly president. And we also have Grant Tinker, an NBC head, Tracy Calkins, a U.S. Olympic 3 gold medal winning swimmer, and set the 5 world records, or set 5 world records, rather, not the 5. Any event. Roger Guillemin, a neuroendocrinologist, shared Nobel Prize with Shawley for peptide hormones. Did you hear the Hooked on Phonics working in there with that one? With the neuroendocrinologist? Boy, I had to sound that one out there. Who else do we have here? Clarence Clemens, a saxophonist from the Bruce Springsteen's E Street Band. We also have Rod Taylor, a film actor. Shmuel Ashkenazi, a violinist. Probably got that one wrong. Who else do we have here? Wilbur De Paris, jazz Dixieland trombonist. We also have Ava Hesse, or Hess perhaps with an E on the end of it, a sculptor. Ezra Cornell, businessman, philanthropist, and developed telegraph systems and founded Cornell University. We also have Sir John Alexander, the first Canadian Prime Minister. We also have Jean Chrétien, Canadian Liberal Party leader. Naomi Judd, or Naomi Judd, depending upon how you want to pronounce it, the country western singer of the Judds fame. We also have Bob Enveloldson, a jazz trombonist, tenor saxophonist, and a bassist. How about that? That's a variety of different instruments there. Brass, woodwind, and what was the other one? I don't know, the one with the reeds there. It's brass, woodwind, reeds. You get the point. Maurice Duraneffel, Durifule, perhaps. This is a French one. They get me sometimes. A French composer. Henry Howard, the Duke of Norfolk, and Marquis Curzon of Kendleston, a British statesman. Boy, the names today, they sure got me. Let's do a little butchering since I messed them all up here. It's not done in malice. It's just, as you can see, Hooked on Phonics does work for me a little bit sometimes, but other times, especially when French enters the chat, not the case. Any event, that has been those born on this day. Very interesting with the William James there. I like it. Any event, hey, I know it's probably a big ask, tall order to take inspiration from other people's accomplishments in the light of our own. But you know what? Like I said, maybe just putting the bug in your ear about as much help you figure that out, or start stirring up the fires to figure out your passion. Because it takes time, it takes energy and effort to do as much. And sometimes even if you got your passions figured out, hey, maybe you don't know how to make them financially viable, right? But I'd say again, just start putting yourself to task, right? You're capable, strong-willed, trustworthy. You're gonna get after it if it's an issue. But like I said, maybe me just putting the bug in your ear about help you stir up as much. Because if I can wish anything for you on your birthday, it's that you're driving after your passions. All right. That having been said, that essentially rounds out your birthday read. Except to say your season is winter, your sign is Capricorn of the Capricorn III period specifically, and your quality and element is Cardinal Earth. And this has been January 11th, the day of evaluation. From The Secret Language of Birthdays by Gary Goldschneider and Hugh Stelfers. I have an affiliate link for this book down in the description if you're interested in picking up a copy. I'll save you the hassle of having to type it in a browser there. You're certainly going to get through the read quicker than I did for you. But hey, you know what? If you ever find yourself hosting a party, break this thing out. This coffee table book here is going to get the party started for better or for worse, but it's going to get the conversation flowing for sure. That's right. And by any mark, that's going to get a party going in the right direction. That's right, because people are going to remember it for days to come. Remember when the birthday book came out and he was reading birthdays? People was getting all up in arms about their interpretation of as much. That's right. You get the point. Any event, not altogether all too important with the book there, but what is important, like I said at the top, wishing you a happy birthday. So once again, happy birthday. And you know what, for everybody else who joined us randomly or here to celebrate, I just want to say I hope you join us for your birthday read. But having said that, lest I forget, your daily numbers. That's right. You have 5 and your 2, 4 is 7. Get out there. Let the universe show you it's with you on your path. Maybe find you a monkey puzzle tree. They out there. They out there. If you even know what that is. That's right. They're hard to climb. That's why they're a puzzle. Once again, today totally disjointed. Hopefully you took something from it. I was excited to celebrate your birthday, even though I probably didn't do so in the most cogent way there, but yeah, I hope I pulled it together for you there. Once again, I want to just say thank you for the pleasure of your time. It was a privilege to share your birthday with you. So once again, happy birthday. Take care of yourselves.